we have just learned about single page applications in the previous lecture. Also, in the React router exercise in the previous lesson, we had already configured our React application to make use of React router to enable us to navigate between various views or various pages of our React application. So we already have all the setup required for a single page application. Now in this exercise, we're going to add in one more component into our React application called the contact component. You already saw that we had introduced four different links to four different views into our header component in the previous exercise. So let's add in the contact component. We will leave the about component for you to complete in the second assignment. And also we will add in some interesting code into the home component so that we can display some interesting information in the home component. So all these steps we will complete in this exercise in order to further develop our React application into a single page application. To get started on this exercise, let's go into our project, and in the components folder, we will add in a new file named contact component.js. And into the contact component.js, I'm going to add in a new functional component called contact component. Now, I would suggest that you simply copy the code from the exercise instructions and paste it in here, because there is a whole lot of JSX code that defines the view for this contact component. So let me go ahead and copy and paste that code into here, and then we'll quickly look at the contact component's code structure. So here you can see that I have pasted in the code for the contact component. So as we see, we are implementing it as a functional component here, and then we are importing React. And then inside here, I am defining a few things, some information to be shown in the contact component, and then I'm exporting the contact component here. Now, when you look at this view, you will begin to see how this view is developed. Now, in the Bootstrap course, we have done this already, so this should look familiar to you if you have done the Bootstrap course. It is exactly the same contact component that we are recreating in React JS here. So after adding in the contact component, let's go ahead and integrate that into our single page application. So to do that, go into the main component and let me pull in the contact component in here. So I will import contact from contact component. And then since we have already fixed the links for our header component and footer component to enable us to navigate to the contact component, all that we need to do here is add in one more route here that will help us to navigate to the contact component. So going in here, let me add in route exact path contact us, and the component's name is the contact component that we have just created. That's it. So if you have a component that you are going to use, but you don't need to pass in any props to that component, you can simply call that component directly here like this. So this is another way of specifying the contact component for us. So with this, my contact component is now integrated into my application. Let's save the changes and then go and take a look at what the contact component looks like. Taking a look at our application in the browser, you can see that we now have the home component. Let's go to the contact component and see what the contact component looks like. So going to the contact component, you can see that the contact component has this information that we have just added in here. We have a button group here, we have an address here, and some other information here. So this is what the contact component that we just added looks like. Now navigating back to the home component, we see the home component. Of course, our next step would be to fill in the details of the home component so that it looks more elegant than just displaying this one single word there called home. But to do that, we need to add in some more additional data into our application. Going back to our application, our first step in this would be to go into the shared folder, and then I'm going to replace this dishes.js with an updated dishes.js where I remove all the comments and then store them separately. So replace this dishes.js with the updated information in dishes.js that is given in the instructions, or download the updated dishes.js file that I have given to you in the instructions and then replace this dishes.js in the shared folder. So let me complete that first. Similarly, add in 3 new files here called comments.js, promotions.js, and leaders.js. Now, into these 3 files, comments, leaders, and promotions, you can just copy and paste all the JSON data that I have given in the instructions. Alternately, you can download the completed versions of comments.js, leaders.js, and promotions.js that I have given to you in the exercise instructions. Whichever way, update these 4 files in the shared folder so that the data that is enclosed there can be used within our application. So let me go ahead and complete these, and then we'll come back to start continuing to update the home component. So here you see that I have pulled in and pasted the data into the leaders.js, the promotions.js, and the comments.js so that it contains the data that I can use within my React application. Eventually, we will move all this data to a server from which we will download over the network and then make use of it. But for the moment, because we need to update our views of our various components, I'm pulling in the data into my application. So after updating dishes, comments, promotions, and leaders.js file, now we can make use of this information to construct our home component. Let me save the changes. Before we update the home component, let me go to the main component. And then in the main component, I'm going to pull in the comments, promotions, and dishes in here. So the next one would be comments from shared comments, and leaders from shared leaders, and finally promotions from shared promotions. And then after this, we will add in 3 more properties to the state. We'll say comments, promotions, leaders. So now my state contains dishes, comments, promotions, and leaders. Now, in the home page, I am going to be rendering a featured dish, a featured promotion, and a featured leader. So what I will do is in this home page that I have constructed here, home page functional component that I have constructed here, where I am using the home component, I'm going to pass in the 3 as the attributes, or rather the props for the home component. So first one, I will say dish. Now, how do we select the dish that we want to render? If you go into dishes.js file, you will see that in the dishes.js file, there is a property here in each of the JSON structure or JavaScript object here called the feature. If this feature is true, then that particular item will be featured on the home page. Notice that for the remaining ones, the featured is false here. Now, how do we extract out this one from the dishes array? So this is where we will make use of the filter, array filter operation in JavaScript to extract that out. So we'll say this state dishes filter. Now, what kind of filter am I applying? The filter that I'm applying is all those dishes for which dish featured. So all those dishes for which dish featured is true. So meaning that because the featured is either true or false. So all those for which the dish featured is true, extract that out, and then that will be returned. The filter returns that as an array. So I'm going to select the very first one. Now, if you arrange your data properly, there will be only one item for which featured will be true, and the remaining ones, the featured will be false. So only one element will be there in the array. But in any case, since it is an array, I am going to take the first element out of that array, so at index 0, and then return that value. So that's how I construct the dish from there. So extract the featured dish. Now, if you go into promotions, you see that there's only one of them there, and for which the featured is set to true. And in leaders also, you will notice that for one of them, the last one, the featured is set to true. So I want to extract that out and then pass in the featured leader, featured promotion, and the featured dish to the home component. So I have passed in the dish. Let me pass in the next one, which is the promotion. So to save myself the trouble of typing everything again, I'm going to copy that dish here and then edit that as saying promotion, this state promotions filter. We'll say promo featured, and then the next one would be leader. And so this state leaders filter leader featured. So the featured leader, the featured promotion, and the featured dish, I will pass these three as props to the home component. So now I need to go and fix up the home component to make use of these. So going into the home component, now within the home component, I am going to be receiving all these three information here. So how do I render this in the home component? So this is where I am going to go into the container here and then say div class name is row, and then we'll say align items start. Again, this is a bootstrap class that I'm applying, and say div here. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to implement another component called render card component inside here, and then make use of it to render the featured dish, the featured promotion, and so on. So that I will enclose it inside a column class. So we'll say column 12 column md m1, so margin 1 all around. So inside here, the first one, I will say render card, and I'll say item props.dish. Recall that the home component receives the props, and the props.dish, props.leader, and props.promotion will become available here. So that one, I am passing it in as props to my render card function that I'm going to implement here. So this one will show the featured dish. Now I will Similarly, let me add in the featured props dot promotion, and then props dot leader. So I'm using a single function component called render card, which is going to render a card, and I am passing in the dish, promotion, and leader. It just so happens that the dish, promotion, and leader have exactly the same structure in the way the code is implemented. So when you go into dishes.js, you see ID, name, image, category, and all these things. Then when you go into promotions, you will see exactly the same properties for that, and also in the leader. And this facilitates me using one single function component called render card, which will allow me to render all these three here. The only difference is for the leader, there is an additional property called as a designation and an additional property called as an abbreviation. So that's something that we need to note. These two don't exist for promotions or dishes. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and implement another function component here. Now, since this function component, I'm going to use it only within this home component, I'm keeping it here, but you can put the render card into another component file and then make use of it from there by importing it here. But in this case, since I am using it only in this component, I'm going to just implement this here. So render card here. Now this render card will receive props here, and the props will contain just one property, which is item. So I'm just going to extract that item out right within the properties itself. So if you declare the incoming thing like that, then item will immediately become available to me for use. So inside here, I'll say return. What does the render card do? It creates a card. So to create a card, I need to import card image. So again, from React Strap. If I add this in, what happens is as I type things here, I will get suggestions automatically. Card, text, card text, card body, card title, and also card subtitle. I'm going to use all these components from React Strap in order to render my card image, and so on. So how do I render a card? I'll say card, and inside this card, we will first create card image. Now for the card image, it takes the source as item.image, and then alternative is item.name. So we'll display the image on top, and then we'll say card body. Down below we'll show the card body here, and for the card body I'm going to show card title, and in the card title I'll show item.name, and below here, this is where I will introduce some JavaScript code inside my JSX here. My JSX allows me to mix it with JavaScript code. So I'll say item designation. If item designation is not null, then I will render that as card subtitle and then we'll say item designation. Recall that the item designation exists only for the leader. For the other ones, I don't have it, so I'll just put null there. So if item designation is not null, so if item designation exists, then I will render it as card subtitle. Otherwise, I will render it as null. So if I put null, that means that this will return a JSX as null. So no element will be returned here. So little trick there to mix in some JavaScript into my JSX. Though this is what JSX brings to us. So JSX allows us to do these kind of things in our code itself. So below that, I will then use card text to show item dot description. That's it. So my card is now constructed. The same card structure can be used to render both my featured dish, promotion, and leader. Now for the leader, since we have the designation, I'm going to render the leader's designation using the card subtitle as shown here. That's it. My home component is now updated. Let's save the changes and go and take a look at the updated application. Going back to my application in the browser, you now see that my home component is now replaced by a more interesting view here. So we have three cards here shown one next to another. First one showing dish, second one showing the promotion, and the third one showing the featured leader. And also notice that the card subtitle is used to show the leader's designation here. And note that this thing is missing in the promotion and the dish here. So little trick to help us to display all these things within my home page. Now my menu page exists just like before, and my contact page exists just like before. About us page, I haven't implemented that. That will be part of your second assignment. With this, we complete this exercise. In this exercise, we have seen how we can integrate our various components into various views of our single page application. And then since we have already configured our application to use React Router, it is very easy to retrofit that into a single page application, rendering in this case 3 different components. And we are able to navigate to the 3 different views using the links that we have already built into the header and the footer component. With this, we complete this exercise. This is a good time for you to do a git commit with the message Single Page Applications Part 1.